is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
Welcome into ATL Day Ones. I am Jarvis Davis. I got my co-host with me, Tenitra, Batiste, and we are coming to you on a good old Tuesday. It's a Tuesday, y'all. We appreciate you for rocking with Locked On Sports Atlanta, and always want to thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. And remember, we are free and available wherever you download your podcast.
Sure.
And, you know, I do this and I will continue to do it every day because I don't mind asking questions. All right, here's what you need to do. Well, I said I was going to ask questions. So here's what you need to do. All right. Go ahead. When you download our podcast, wherever you listen, like it's available everywhere, just like I said, leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and leave us a 5-star review so everybody else can find out about how great we are. And if you don't leave us a 5-star review, I might just hit you upside the head with a helmet. Yeah, when I see you in these streets. All right, so T, we got a lot of good stuff on board for today. Obviously, I'm off to a good start, talking all type of trash today. But will the Falcons be one of the worst teams in the NFL? Did Josh Donaldson get off easy? And then for the culture, the most overused term in sports vernacular history. We'll talk about all of that. But first, the Atlanta Falcons. And Peter King does his weekly kind of newsletter type situation called Football Morning in America. And he ranked the teams, which I think it's a little early, but hey, we'll roll with it. It's all good. And he had the Falcons ranked 30th.
Right.
In the NFL, right above the Texans and the Panthers. Tenitra, Batiste. Yes. What were your first thoughts when you saw that ranking?
You know, to see it initially, I was just like, wow, 30th? Like Falcons are 30th. But then when you dig a little deeper, right, and you go and you just Google it and you see ESPN's post-draft positioning as far as power rankings go, they're 31. And if you see CBS Sports Pete Prisco's ranking, the Falcons are 32. And then you see an over-under from like a BetQL win, basically saying they have them listed at 4.5. Tied with who else? The Texans. So really, everyone almost has this team kind of ranked at the very bottom. And it really made me think, well, what is it that they're seeing that maybe we're not? Because most people I've spoken with in the industry who cover the team on a consistent basis, like you, have followed their moves in the offseason, have followed their moves during the draft, have watched to see what the progression is of their draft picks from the past couple of years, have given them somewhere in the range of like 5, 6, maybe being liberal from, giving them 7 wins, thinking about last year. But what I said was this: I wonder if this has anything also to do with strength of schedule. Because you look at this year's strength of schedule, and it is the 10th hardest schedule in the league. So that could definitely have some weight to it. At the end of the day, you look at the third easiest schedule in 2021 that may have on some level gotten them to do what we say, quote unquote, was overachieve with those wins last year.
Right,
so
right.
Yeah, I while it's a harsh thing to see your name, Falcons, in dim lights with the Texans and with the Panthers, if we really think about it, I've said 6, Jarvis. That's where I've kind of sat at. 6
Okay.
Season for me. I don't know that they'll quite get to 7 because, agreed, I was looking at the strength of schedule. But when I think about, okay, does 7 wins equate to being third worst, second worst, or worst in the NFL? I can't marry those two. That math ain't mathing for me.
Yeah, I understand, and I get it. Like you said, like from a 30,000-foot view, so to speak, you can look at this situation and say, okay, yeah, they maybe overachieved last year. They got a lot of issues on both sides of the lines or whatever, what have you. So but just looking from the inside, we are seeing some of the improvements. They've addressed some of those issues. Not necessarily the offensive line like you would have liked, but the offseason is not over. We talked about on yesterday's show how there are still one or two moves to be made on
Yes.
those on the offensive and defensive line. So I think that I can kind of understand it, but I think I'm gonna take it a little step further on how
Mm-hmm.
much more I understand it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They lost Matt Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people are banking on the loss of Matt Ryan being a huge, huge hit for the Atlanta Falcons, because I think that, a lot of people talk about how Arthur Smith, made, boo boo out of lemonade. He made lemonade out of boo boo. But, he had to have the quarterback to be able to execute whatever that was able to be done on the field.
Right.
So I think the loss of Matt Ryan, I can kind of understand the rankings, but I believe that I think Arthur Smith is bringing a lot of his guys in, and I think that he's at least good for the over, so to speak.
Yeah.
And if I'm using gambling terms, so 5 or 6 games, maybe even 7. And it just all depends on what happens with the quarterback situation with Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder.
Yeah, and I can definitely see your point about the departure of Matt Ryan probably making people, national pundits, think about, wow, that's going to be a tanking situation. But I guess I'm looking at it from the perspective of some sizable improvements. Listen, they're looking at the same paper we're looking at right now. Okay,
Right, of
nobody has
course.
hit the field. So if I'm looking
Indeed.
at the same paper they're looking at, I'm looking at some of those additions to the defense. I'm looking at the Falcons retaining Grady Jarrett, right? I'm
Yeah.
looking at the Falcons possibly getting a fully healed, fully recovered Isaiah Oliver back. And
Right.
to me, those things are encouraging enough to say, And then you and I are like chomping at the bit, like most people may be salivating too, on what the possibilities will be with, getting more help for the pass defense, if you will, like when you get someone like a Troy Anderson or an Arnold Ebiketie. So I guess being as close as we are to the team, we're seeing this a little bit differently. And then finally looking at what Arthur Smith was able to do. I'll call it making lemons out of lemonade, right? I'm going to
Right.
make it look more euphemistic. But
Yes.
when he
You're a
was
little bit
able
less graphic than I am. Yes.
when he was able to do with Ryan Tannehill, and if he's able to even get something similar out of Marcus Mariota, right? If he can even be just a little bit of a better game manager here than he was there, or if Desmond Ridder and his learning curve is that much faster and quicker, and Drake London and everybody that was added on that offensive line, and Damian Williams, he's still kind of an unknown factor. We don't talk much about that running back room, but they've been adding pieces. So I don't know. I feel like that 30, number 32, number 31, number 30 ranking. And even though, Jarvis, I'll be honest, I've been scrolling back and forth, up and down, saying, okay, well, then who would you put behind them, right? Well, I'd still put the Jets behind them as an example.
Yeah.
So,
Like, come on now.
yeah, yeah.
Really?
There you go.
Like the
There you go.
Jets?
So when I look at the rest of the teams that you could have put behind them, I still find 31, 32, 30. To me, that seems to be a stretch.
Indeed, I agree. Like I said, like I understand it.
Yeah.
Just from what has happened over this off season and in the draft and everything like that, I get it. But I think it just ended up being that they liked a lot of other teams' draft more than they liked the Falcons' draft, probably, and that's why they ended up being in front of the Falcons. All right, there's another little news going on in Atlanta. Like, we are the centerpiece of the world in all aspects.
Yes.
Well, at least I like to think anyway. There are some meetings going on down here, T, and
Yeah.
teams have sent representatives from their teams, and they are looking at is what the NFL has deemed a front office acceleration program.
Yes.
There's a spring league meeting is being held right here in Atlanta, in the suburb of Atlanta, Buckhead. Falcons, owner Arthur Blank opened the meeting, and Terry Fontenot was there, and he addressed a group of like 60 senior executives, men and women, from all 32 teams.
Yes.
Now, this is something that's been put in place to kind of get, these people, of minorities, in the same room with owners, and they're going to have opportunity just to sit down with them one-on-one and kind of just get to know them, because
Yes.
the problem or the issue has been is that they have always leaned on the people that they've known, or leaned on
It
the people
is.
that look like them,
Mm-hmm.
because they have certain relationships, or they know somebody that knows somebody that knows
That
somebody.
knows
We all know
somebody.
how this hiring piece work, right?
Yep.
So, but I think this is all well and good, T.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what I'm about to ask? Like,
Yeah.
is this really gonna help? Because we have the same conversation every all
Yeah.
season
Every.
when we see who gets hired with these head coaching positions come open, because
Mm-hmm.
there's some that come open every year,
Yeah.
and it just seems like the NFL keeps continue to dropping the ball. So, but I think that is this something that can finally say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
here's something that they put together and tried to do, and it actually worked.
Yeah. And my answer to that is show and prove. Because the question that I had is this summit is hosting GM and coaching candidates, but will it lead to any of them becoming GM and head coach hires? If
Yep.
the answer is no, if we have any of these individuals who were invited to this symposium, this summit, this seminar, and those individuals, not a one, not a two, and I'm not talking about onesies, twosies, as in check the box situation, right? I'm talking about legitimate opportunities. If we have the same people trotting back to the summit or the seminar or the symposium next year, and they've not made headway to be in a head coaching position or to get a stake in ownership, a stake in a team, even, or a seat at the head of the table at the front office, then to me, this is a moot point. To me, it's useless.
Yeah, and to be honest, and you know me, I'm kind of a little bit of the pessimistic side of this thing, because like I said, people hire who they're comfortable with. Like, I don't even know if there's a system that the NFL can put in place for this to work, for this to be better, for this to kind of get to a place where we're not talking about this anymore. And also,
Mm-hmm.
um, my whole thing is, there was a quote, right, that was in the article that was by Arthur Blank,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, this quote, these are the exact words. This is
Mm-hmm.
some of the most important work the NFL will do. We must get better. We must be more intentional to be better. We have heard, Blank said. We are listening. We are listening hard. Are you?
Right.
Are you?
Yeah.
You just hired your first black general manager, and you've never had a minority head coach, a full-time minority head coach. They've had interim black head coaches before, but they've never had a black head coach. So my whole thing is, like, if I'm a 70-year-old, 80-year-old white man that got a poop ton of money, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
sitting up in this meeting, or I'm going to this summit to meet all these people, and the person who is heading it, who's starting it off and leading it off, if he hadn't hired one, so why the hell would I hire one?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I
And
got
we're
to say.
talking, right.
Like, show and prove. Like, if this is what we're doing, if you are listening, if you are, trying to do something, or you want the NFL to do something as well,
Mm-hmm.
you do it. You
Yeah.
do first, and then most of the times the other guys will follow.
They will follow, especially, and it depends on who you speak to. Some will say that Arthur Blank is an influencer within the group of owners.
Yeah,
Others will
yeah.
say a Jerry
You got a
Jones
little
is
cachet.
an
Yeah.
influencer. Exactly. Others will say Robert Kraft, and not to say that they are in the same influencer group, by the way, but
Right.
some influencer, some heavy hitter who can really, really move the needle has to speak up. So, which if it's Mr. Blank, then let it be Mr. Blank. But one of them who has a seat at the table has to be an advocate, like Mr. Rooney was, who said, okay, I'm not just advocating. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to get myself an African American head coach, and then I'm going to get some pieces on his
A
staff, and then I'm going to
young
get
one
some
too.
pieces in the front office. Exactly.
Yes.
And then
Not
I'm
a
going to stick
retread.
with right. And then I'm going to stick with him through some dark. We had a season or two that were unsteeler like. And we're going to stick with him until we get out of that space, right? And we're going
Right.
to also have him come and be the head coach of a franchise that is successful. No offense, but that's like when Hugh Jackson took the Browns job. That's a setup for failure. So no, but
Doomed.
yeah, exactly. It is doomed from the beginning. So that's the other piece. Just as the owners are coming together potentially to oust Dan Snyder from his perch as owner of the Commanders, this is what will have to be done. All that energy, that same energy that you guys are putting together whoever that influencing group is, shift gears and put some influence and some weight and some energy behind this, because that is the only way we'll see change, is if someone with a definitive voice says, I'm not just speaking on it, we're about to be about this thing.
No doubt about it, and we'll end it right there. We want to shift some things to Mr. Josh Donaldson. You know he used to play for the Braves, right? Yeah, we got issues. We'll talk about that next on ATL Day One's part of Locked On Sports Atlanta.